Without delay, we've got Guy de Beaujeu, who's been producing Private Peaceful about, was it 2011? It was 2011, and some of you might have noticed that Christchurch Park was pretty much inaccessible for a few days, and that's all down to him, so...
Thanks, Julian. Good afternoon, everybody. They say that war is hell. I would say filmmaking is hell. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the production. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's gone wrong with it, what went right with it, and I'll give you a bit more detail of how we spent the money here, why we came here. I think the best thing we can do first, team, is roll the trailer. This is the cinema trailer. So now we're just going to run some of the selection of 600 stills, I think, that will just come and they have no meaning and nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but probably nicer to look at that rather than me. As you can probably tell, I'm a kind of unpaid member of the Suffolk County Council marketing team. The entire production was shot here. The reason that we came here, I'm afraid, is not because we had heard that Suffolk looked like Devon. Michael Morpurgo flatly refused to believe that was the case. The most difficult conversation I had to have with Michael, probably during the entire shoot, was when I rang him up and went, Michael, you know that your entire book is based in Flanders and Devon, while we're filming in Ipswich. He's a Devon man through and through. I'm a West Country man through and through, and the train journey today proved just how far away Ipswich is. But he was amazed at what we managed to achieve, and there are plenty of people who watch this movie who have no idea it was filmed in Suffolk. We've broken all the stereotypes, and that is a fantastic feather in your cap if you want people like us to come, because it proves that you can basically make Suffolk into anything if you can make it into Devon. We came because of the trench system, because of Taff and Tracy and the fantastic facilities and organisation and their great persuasiveness. Taff was amazing on the shoot, kept going despite everything that we threw at him and his team. We had our arguments and our battles, and we stayed friends. and that's the most important thing. Filmmaking in the UK is incredibly tough, really, really tough. People and facilities like TAF need to be cherished. I'm horrified and appalled that public money goes abroad to Poland or the rest of Eastern Europe rather than coming here or any other part of the UK. I think it's just outrageous. But that's a whole other story. So we shot, let me just quickly run you down Christchurch Mansion, the Sue Ryder Hospice, in Chantry Park, Winston, St Andrew's Church, Winston Village Hall, Weatheringset Mill, the Wool Pit, and the list goes on. And of course at Meal, which was incredibly important to us, Hadley, and in the pub, I think, in Whirlingworth, and also, by the look of it, even Woodbridge. So it gives you an idea of just the extent of the places that we ended up going to. And I think it's testament to Suffolk that we found these incredible locations, and locations that, and this is perhaps the most important thing, and of course it only has a limited lifespan as far as you guys are concerned, but no one had filmed in them before. Now that was good for two reasons. One, it was great for us creatively, because it wasn't people trying to spot where they'd shot the last Jane Austen and now they've used it for this. So that was great. The other thing was, of course, that we were dealing with people who'd never had film people on their properties before. And the knowledgeable laughs among you will know what that means. Those that don't, basically, although it's very tempting to want to have film crews come to your house and pay you lots of money, it comes at a price. So our experience overall in Suffolk was an incredibly happy one. I did ask our location manager if he wanted to write something for me just to give you an idea of what his take on the whole thing was. And he said actually that paradoxically the biggest problem was that everyone was trying to be too nice and too helpful, and they kept throwing properties at us and saying, oh, it'll only cost you threepence for the week. And we were going, fantastic, just what we want to hear. And then, of course, once the council got involved and realised that it wasn't threepence and that wasn't the going rate, there was a lot of sort of argument that then went on. I'm sure that all of those contracts and all of that issue has been resolved. I got to hear about it because I'm the producer in charge of the money, and when we thought we were getting a song, it suddenly turned out to be something a little less than that. But anyway, that was just deal making. I think the other thing, that the helpfulness was that everyone suddenly appeared with pots of paint to give a little extra lick of paint to a lovely looking old window was suddenly gleaming, and it was like, oh no. And the chap with the mower turned up and we're like, no. And then somebody heard that we were going to be filming in, I forget which churchyard it was, which was terribly overgrown, and people were incredibly embarrassed that we were going to go to this very overgrown cemetery. Someone turned up with their mower and just determined that they were going to mow round their dear departed's grave. And we were begging them not to, but they still did. So we had to sort of slightly move the filming. But anyway, these are very minor things. I think one of the issues was that it didn't seem very joined up. But this was in 2011, and I'm sure you've got much better now. The council seemed to be a little bit lost as to where he should be pointed to sort of work with the locations and things. But he, just as a rider to that, he says, having said that, the helpfulness of all the council, city, park staff far and away outweighed any of these minor problems, and their willingness and effectiveness in coming up with solutions to problems arising during the course of the filming helped hugely to ensure the smooth programme that we enjoyed. We shot for 42 days over an 8-week period in September and October of 2011. And to our absolute amazement, and I don't think you could put this in any sort of brochure, but we only lost 45 minutes to rain for the entire time, which was just extraordinary. Our production budget was about 2.75 million. The budget's close to 3, but there's obviously finances and all the nasty bits. I wish that I could hand on heart use the figure that TAF used of £2 million spent directly in Suffolk. I've estimated it's 1.137 million. Most of that to TAF. The wage bill was £902,000, which of course will also have been spent locally. Our locations bill, actually our locations bill was not that expensive, I have to say. It was around about 200k. Our accommodation bill was the shocker. That was £250,000. Our extras bill was in the region of about 100,000. On average, we were feeding 87.5 people a day, which was a minimum of 53 people and a maximum on one day of 167. So I'm trying to give you sort of context of the scale that these things. This is a relatively low budget, independent British movie. We always joke that we spent on the movie what Spielberg probably spent on the catering bill for War Horse. But it gives you an idea of the sheer value that a production can bring into an area. It's little old us. We raised all this money and we spent a lot of it right here on your doorstep. We had a deal with our location manager that we would not go more than 25 minutes drive from our core base at Khaki Devil. And when you look at what we found, it's kind of a crying shame that you guys aren't out there tub thumping more and more loudly. I buy into all of the thing about only being an hour and 15 minutes on the train. The killer is and remains accommodation for us. To me, that's just wasted money. It really is. That's £250,000 that I could, of course there's always accommodation, but you get my picture that as a producer, how can I save money? I want to shoot in the UK. I want to use British extras. I want to use British expertise. I want a British crew. And then suddenly we've got this accommodation problem. I don't know what the answer is. I'm just telling you that that's one of the issues. Now, everyone's talking about using local crew. Yes, that works to an extent, but quite often we're crewing up a long time in advance with people that know people that know people, and it's happy coincidence that our makeup lady was, we didn't have to accommodate her. Fantastic, that was a saving. Every person that we didn't have to accommodate was a saving, but in a way, someone needs to do a job on the producers and the line producers and the production managers' heads to say it's really worth trying to get local crew. And I know that because you guys are near to London, I'm sure that lots of you have worked on big productions. It's just a case of trying to join up those dots and get everybody talking so that we understand that the people are out there. I probably will just let people ask.
Yes, we're going to go through some questions, but first we wanted to welcome another local producer.